Hello, this is Sandman 99, and welcome to my demo of the mod Sandman's Public Facilities. So basically what I did is I created a mod that adds a lot of crafting facilities to many of the small villages and other settlements that didn't have anything. And I also added some cloud storage to many places in the game world. And one of those places is in the Fort Dawnguard. And of course, I chose to do Fort Dawnguard first in this video because of the problematic relationship that I'm likely to have with the Dawnguard. Because the lovely and talented Acer here is a vampire, and so I'm probably no longer welcome here. But all I'm going to do is just come in here real quick and just show where our magical cloud storage chest is. And it's right here. This is where I placed it. I didn't place any other resources in Fort Dawnguard because most necessary services eventually become available if you choose the Dawnguard side. And as you can see, over the course of a fairly lengthy career, I've collected a lot of stuff, and I can access it all in my cloud storage chest. So we're going to pause now briefly while we exit this area and go to the next site. Okay, here we are at our second location, just outside Riften. So here's the Riften stables. There's the campsite that the Khajiit quite often set up at. And my second location is actually a full campsite that I added at the edge of the lake here. So basically, I installed an anvil and a smelter, all of the workstations for crafting, a cooking pot with a fireplace, and actually this fire pit gives off heat if you happen to be playing this game in the SE version where you've got survival mode. Now there's just a simple basic storage chest here. This is safe storage, so that you can put things in it and then come back and get them later. But I also have the cloud storage chest here too. All the stuff that I could look at when I was looking in the cloud storage chest in Fort Dawnguard, I can also access here. And so basically I just created this little campsite within sight of Riften, because at first you don't really have access to a lot of stuff in Riften. And you know, I built this tent with a couple of cots in it. Sleep in here if you're playing survival mode. What we're looking at here, of course, is the Skyrim LE version of the mod, because that's the version where I created this mod and then I ported it for SE. So anyway, we'll head on over to the north gate of Riften and pause for a moment. That horse is not quite on the ground. Yes, Skyrim LE has its problems. I tried to make a lightly modded game so that it would be fairly stable so I could create my own mods in it. And it's not too bad. I still get a lot of freeze crashes and that kind of thing though. Anyway, onward. Okay, here we are in Honeyside, the home that you can buy in Riften. And I only made one addition here, and that is a cloud storage chest, which I put right there. Other than that, all of this house is completely vanilla. Of course, you might have noticed that in the previous location at the campsite outside Riften, I did not include alchemy or magical workbenches, and that's because I felt that there needed to be some kind of incentive to buy the house in Riften, or at the very least you would have to go up to the keep and use the court mage's enchanting table and alchemy workstation. So, I'm not trying to create full-blown player homes everywhere, but basically just wanted to have more access to smithing and that kind of thing in locations where it did not conveniently exist. So anyway, that concludes Riften, so we'll move on to the next location. Okay, here we are at Shore's Stone. Now, Shore's Stone is a little mining town. They already had a lot of the things that you needed. I believe I added this wood chopping block, however. And I think I also might have added this cooking pot hanging on the... Yeah, it looks like I added that cooking pot hanging on the spit there as well. Other than that, they had pretty much everything already required. They had a smelter already. They already had all the smithing stations. And just around behind this house here is where I placed our cloud storage chest and a tent. And inside the tent is the regular storage chest. I included regular storage chests for people who feel that cloud storage is a bit of a cheat. This way, at least, you can still use these locations and store things in the individual safe storage chest, if you will. And you just don't have to use the cloud storage chest if you don't want to. On the other hand, if you want the convenience of being able to access all of your materials and belongings in many different locations in the game world, well, then cloud storage is available. And that is all that I added to Shore's Stone, actually, because, like I said, Shore's Stone pretty much had everything that was needed already, except for a place to sleep and a place to store your goods. And also a place to chop wood. For some reason, some of these locations have piles of chopped firewood everywhere, but no place where they actually do the chopping. So, we'll move on to the next location. And here we are at Heartwood Mill, which is also located in the Rift, right where my pointer is pointing right there. And I had to add quite a bit of stuff here because these guys didn't pretty much have anything. So I added a wood chopping block here, added a small campfire with a cook pot there, and I put in grindstone, tanning rack, and armor workbench there. I added a smelter here, another campfire here, and again, this is because I had in mind being able to play this on survival, and so you needed a place where you could sleep and not freeze to death. And having that campfire right near the tent like that keeps you nice and warm while you're trying to sleep. And then, of course, here is your regular storage chest and cloud storage. So, something to bear in mind is that some of this stuff looks slightly different in SE, because one of the things they did in SE is they added a lot of bushes and things like that, like this type of stuff. And so quite often I found in the SE version of this mod that where I placed a particular item, whether it be a chest or a crafting station or whatever, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's like a great big bush in front of it now. However, it still works and it's still there, but it just might be obscured from view a little bit. Anyway, this is Heartwood Mill. So we'll pause again while we go to the next location. Our next stop is Iverstead. Now, Iverstead, I always thought, didn't have the amount of resources that it should have. And so I added a few things that I felt were missing. And I tried to keep them all in one area over here, the things that I added. So I put in a smelter over here, and an anvil for smithing, and a armor workbench. And of course here's our cloud storage, and over here is just our regular storage chest. And then of course I didn't add a tent or a bed because you know, you have the inn right there, and you should be able to scrape together 10 gold pieces to sleep in a bed in the inn. Sleep. And over here is where I added the campfire and cook pot. And I thought this was a good looking location, but much to my surprise, in SE, there's a whole bunch of bushes up here. However, the cooking facility still works, even if it looks kind of strange in the middle of a big shrub that didn't used to be there. Anyway, Iverstead already had a tanning rack and a wood chopping block and a grinding wheel, sharpening wheel, and they're down at the end of the street down there. So I didn't feel the need to add those things again. So we're going to move on to the next stop. Darkwater Crossing. And so this is a mining settlement, and a place that you will eventually end up having to go at some point. And again, they had a couple of the basics, but they were missing a smithing station. And then of course here is the cloud storage chest, the armor workbench that I added. Over here is just the regular safe storage chest. And I just hung a cook pot. I put a cooking spit in here as well. So that you have those crafting stations. And of course this place already had a tanning rack and a grindstone. I, again, didn't bother to add a sleeping facility because you can actually sleep in one of these bedrolls if you want to, or inside the mine there's actually another bedroll in there. So there you go. That is Darkwater Crossing. And so we'll head on to the next stop. Our next stop is Mixwater Mill, which is located on the map right here. We were just at Darkwater Crossing over there. We are now at Mixwater Mill. And Mixwater Mill... Uh-oh, what's going on now?
Where'd you come from?
I guess we're going to have to fight a dragon. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, okay. Where'd he go? He's just going to be one of those annoying ones that flies around at a distance and occasionally sees something shiny and goes away. Okay, well, we're going to ignore him for the time being. Anyway, here's the smelter, the anvil, the grindstone. Tucked into the corner over here are your storage chests, both cloud and regular. And there's the armor workbench. And over here I put a small campfire and a cooking pot. And then, of course, if you need to sleep, you can always go inside the bunkhouse there. And there's a couple of beds in there that you can sleep in. And I see Serana is now shooting ice spikes. Oh, there we go. Ah, okay. I'm going to have to switch to... I think I'll switch to a lightning bolt here because it's a little bit harder for me to miss. Oh, I guess he saw something shiny up there again now. You know, for ancient and wise creatures, these things have amazingly short attention spans. I think I just killed him in midair.
Need to bathe thoroughly to get this stench off
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So we'll take those, and we'll take those, and we'll take that. I guess we'll take those two. I guess Lydia must have been shooting him with a bow and arrow. There can be only one. So, a little bit more going on here at Mixwater Mill than I had planned, but okay. That is Mixwater Mill. So, here we are in Kynesgrove, and there's the inn. And
There's so much history in this.
Kynesgrove, again, there wasn't very much here. So, one of the things that I added was I added a cook pot, because they had this nice big fire here, but no cooking. And then clustered over here, I placed an anvil, our cloud storage there, sharpening wheel or grindstone, armor workbench, our regular storage chest, and of course up by the mine up there, just around behind this rock formation, there was already a smelter. So I didn't feel the need to add that, and of course I didn't bother to add a tent or a bedroll, because the inn is like right there. So if you need to sleep, you can go and sleep in the inn. So that's about all there is to Kynesgrove. So we'll move on. So our next stop is Windhelm. And Windhelm is unusual in that it has almost every crafting convenience that you would need, all within the steps of each other. So you've got a magic workbench here. Inside the alchemy shop there, of course, you have an alchemy workbench. You have both of those things in the court mage's room as well. So the only thing I added here was the cloud storage chest. And I did not add anything in here in the house that you can eventually buy here in Windhelm, because you have to join a very specific faction and play a certain way in order to be able to even buy that house. And not everybody wants to play that way. So, anyway, cloud storage is the only thing I added in Windhelm right there. So, down the road, just a little ways from Windhelm, is Anga's Mill. And I added a few things to Anga's Mill to make it a livable stop on the road as well. So here's the cooking facilities, as well as a fire to warm yourself up by if you're playing on SE Survival. It already came with more than one wood chopping block, and I'm not sure, but that grindstone may have already been here too. So I added a regular storage chest here. And over here, in this clear space, I put the smithing facility and smelter. And then a little ways over here, we placed a tanning rack. And here is our cloud storage chest next to the armor workbench. And for sleeping, actually just up the hill here a bit, and this is vanilla, I didn't put this in, but just up the hill here a bit is a tent with a bedroll in front of a fire that you can sleep in already. So that was already existing. So we're going to move up to the city of Winterhold next. And so here we are in Winterhold, and using my wonderful bat travel ability, I appear in the middle of this ruined house. So we'll have to go out here and get our bearings a little bit. Okay. And then we're going to have to fight off something over here.
Who's there?
What's going on? Oh. It's a named Dawn Guard person. Well, it looks like Serana and Lydia are going to take care of that. It's good to have bodyguards.
Huh?
Who is this person and why? Okay, Dawn Guard cache key. Dawn Guard orders. Okay, we'll read that a little later. Okay. Anyway, getting back to the facilities. So here's a grindstone that I placed. And of course, I placed the smelter right out here in the middle of the street. Sometimes the guards have a little bit of trouble walking around it, but they do figure it out eventually. There's an anvil and a tanning rack. And then, see that the guard managed to make it around that thing eventually. And then up here on the porch of this ruined house, we have our regular storage chest, armor workbench, and our cloud storage. So anyone who is running a some sort of city overhaul mod should be aware, if they want to use my mod, that I have placed objects within Winterhold. And another thing that the last thing that I put in here is I put this wood chopping block in here too, right at the front steps of the inn.
That's what I want to be, but here, my thing. Fighting
Of course, you can sleep in the inn for pretty cheap.
You must be one of those
And obviously you have to be a member of the college to get access to alchemy and magic workbenches if you want to use Winterhold as a base. Okay, here we are at Whiterun. And I didn't do very much in Whiterun, but I will show you the interior of the house for Breezeholm. So we'll pause briefly while we go inside. Alright, here we are in Breezeholm. And you may notice that I've added a few things to Breezeholm, but that's from a different mod actually, not the one we're discussing right now. The only thing that I've added that were from the current mod that we're demoing right now is this cloud storage chest, which provides you with a linked storage to all the locations in the world that we've shown so far, plus other ones that we will show, and all of the vanilla player homes. So if anyone happens to be running an overhaul of Breezeholm, well, you might want to be aware that this is where I placed the cloud storage chest for Breezeholm. This is the site of Hagel Marchen or something like that hall. I can't pronounce it right, but anyway, it's the homestead that you get from the Jarl at Dawnstar. Of course, I haven't completed that quest line yet, so there's nothing here. But I did place a cloud storage chest here, and once you do complete that quest line, well, then the carpentry workbench and the anvil and the storage chest and everything that appears when you start to build your house here, all that stuff will be clustered around this chest. So I placed this chest in the game world so that it would be next to or near those basic items. That's about all that there is to this place now. There isn't anything here, so it's not terribly interesting right now. Riverwood. modder's favorite location. There are many mods that affect Riverwood, including at least 2 that I know of that place a cabin on top of this little bluff here. I'm actually running a mod in Old Rim. I think it's called the Missing Smelters or something like that, and that's what this smelter is from, actually. I did place a smelter over here. However, I tried to place it somewhat out of the way so that it wouldn't interfere possibly with other mods. And so the smelter mod that I'm running, that I was running before I made my mod, puts a smelter there. So it's a bit redundant, but that's okay. And of course I stuck my storage chest and my cloud storage chest over here. Again, hopefully somewhat out of the way, so people who run a heavily modded Riverwood site, hopefully this won't interfere with anything that they've got going on here. And that's about all I did for Riverwood, because again, there's Alvar's Forge, and you've got all of your basic necessary crafting stations right here. So we'll move on. So, Falkreath, the town, capital of Falkreath Hold, and of course it has the full forging facilities over there. This smelter was placed by the other smelter mod that I had mentioned earlier. I think it's called the Lost Smelters. But anyway, I placed my smelter from this mod over here. And then over here in the corner of the porch, where the blacksmith works, is where I put the cloud storage chest. And of course, if you want, alchemy and magic and that kind of thing, well, you'll have to go into the Jarl's Longhouse for that, and or into the shop over here, alchemist shop. And so that pretty much is all I did with the town of Falkreath. So this is the build site for Lakeview Manor, which is the property that you can get if you do a job for the Jarl of Falkreath and then help out some of their citizens. And obviously I haven't done that yet. But what I did do is I placed a cloud storage chest right here. And once you actually get ownership of this property, well, all of your basic stuff, your carpentry workbench and your anvil and your storage chest and all that kind of good stuff will all be lined up in a nice neat little row here. And this will be on the very end. So basically, that's it for this site. So next, we're going to stop at another mill. So our next stop on the tour is Half Moon Mill, which, of course, is the home of a pair of sawmill operating vampires. Oddly enough, they're not out at night, though. But anyway, decided that they were missing a few things here. So we put in our smelter and our anvil, workbench. There's our cloud storage chest next to the workbench. I'm not sure, I think this grindstone might have already been there. And the same with the wood chopping block. And there's a tanning rack down here by the river. And then over here is a fire with a cooking pot. And of course a tent with a bedroll in it. And your local safe storage chest. So that is Half Moon Mill. So, Rorikstead is another settlement that I thought was a bit neglected. And so I made some additions to it as well. Just going to, I think, have a quick bite from Glenkill here while nobody's looking. And then we'll go around here and have a look at things that I've added. I believe that canning rack was already there. And so just around here, there's this fire. And there was no cook pot on this spit, so I added a cook pot. I also added this wood chopping block. And around the back of the inn here, we have our regular storage chest and our cloud storage. And you might notice the regular storage chests all have an iron ingot in them. That's because when I was testing this, just to make sure that those were in fact safe storage chests, I was leaving an iron ingot behind in each one. And so every now and then when I'd come back, I'd just check to make sure that iron ingot was still there. Anyway, so placed grindstone, the workbench, the anvil, and the smelter all over here. And so that pretty much does it for Rorikstead. So our next stop is the Old Roldan Inn. And I know this is kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but I just felt that it would be a good place to add some of these facilities. So here we go. There's a cooking setup right out here in front of the front steps. And I believe that wood pile and that grindstone were already there. Around the side of the inn, here is our regular storage chest with its iron ingot. Here is our cloud storage. There's the armor workbench, the anvil, and the smelter. And I'm aware that there is a fairly big overhaul to Herolden. I don't remember what it's called now. I just remember looking at it in the Nexus site a long time ago. I have no idea whether this mod will be compatible with that or not, but that's one of the reasons that I included this in our tour, so that people can make sure that this mod will be able to play nice with other mods that might modify this site. So we're going to head on over to Karthwasten next. And we have arrived in Karthwasten. And Karthwasten, for a mining town, I thought was a bit sadly lacking in facilities as well. Didn't even have a wood chopping block. Now it does, right there between the steps up to the main building here. I'm not sure. I think that tanning rack was already there. And if we just duck around the fence here, we can come to our campsite, where there's a cooking pot and a place to sleep.
Let's get indoors.
We go back around here again. And we'll head up the branch toward the disputed mine that you actually have to chase some mercenaries out of. And of course there was already a smelter here, but it made sense to put the anvil and the other workstations next to it. I actually put another tanning rack there, so I suppose that first one is somewhat redundant, but that's okay. And here is our regular storage chest. And of course over here is our cloud storage chest. So had to add a little bit more to Karthwasten than in some areas, but now it's actually a place that you can use as a base for your operations. So here we are in the entryway to Valindril Hall, a house that you can buy in Markarth. And I only added one thing here, and that is cloud storage chest right there at the end of the dining room table. And I didn't actually add anything else in Markarth, mainly because, again, not much incentive to buy the house if you put too much stuff in the town. And also, I'm using a series of mods called Hole in the Wall. I forget the author name, but the guy made little mini player homes in several of the major holds. And I figured that in the case of Markarth, that little hole in the wall mini home would do as a spot to store all your junk until you had enough money and managed to complete the quests and so on to be able to buy this house. So we're going to move on now to Dragon Bridge.
It's so bright out here.
All right, Dragon Bridge. And again, for the size of the town, I thought that Dragon Bridge was missing some things. So here we go. Regular storage chest, cloud storage, and here we have an anvil and a smelter. I'm right down in the middle of the street. And then up here on the porch is a tanning rack and a grindstone and a workbench, armor workbench. And then, of course, over here, there was a fire already with one of these weird empty pot things, so I just hung a cooking pot on the existing
there's a few coins in it.
spit there. So now Dragon Bridge is a complete location with all services, except for, of course, alchemy and magical crafting. But, oh, look at that. A frostbite spider just fell out of the sky. Yes, in Old Rim, that kind of thing happens. It rains frostbite spiders and chickens and wolves and whatever else.
What business do college majors a place like Sorthal anyway?
But
it's a place
anyway, I'm kind of digressing. We're done here in Dragon Bridge. Oh look, a chicken just fell out of the sky there too. So anyway, we're done in Dragon Bridge, so we're going to move on now to Solitude. So before we go into Solitude, figured we'd stop by the Solitude Sawmill and have a look at the things that I put in here. So I added several workstations here: tanning rack, grindstone, workbench. There's our anvil and smelter, and of course our storage chests. Now, in addition to that, a little ways down the edge of the water here, there was of course another grindstone down here already. I put in a little tent and a bedroll, as well as adding a cooking spit to this fire that was already there. So you pretty much have all the things that you need in order to be able to camp out here outside of Solitude. Still be able to do all of your smithing and all that other kind of good stuff. Oh, here comes the dreaded autosave. We'll pause for a moment. Okay, we're back and able to continue now. For some reason, autosaves take a very long time. Old Rim, don't know why, because they're almost instant in SE. But anyway, we'll head on back up here. Going to hypnotize this guard so that we can take a bite out of him. And then we will continue on our way to Solitude to have a look inside Proudspire Manor. Alright, here we are in the basement of Proudspire Manor in Solitude. And really there isn't much to show in here. It's pretty much a... There goes Jordis. It's pretty much a, you know, vanilla setup. Except for this one feature, which is the cloud storage chest, which I placed right here at the bottom of the stairs. And really the only reason I'm showing this is because I know that there may be mods out there that overhaul this location, and so people who are concerned about mod compatibility, well, you know what, this is the one change that I made to Proudspire Manor. That way at least you'll know what I did, just in case you are running a mod that does do some changes to Proudspire Manor. So we're going to head back out into the world again, because we still have a few more sites to visit within Skyrim. So our next stop is in Morthal, and so Morthal again is a place that I expected to have more than it does. Look, there's the lovely Alva.
Well, aren't you the pretty one? I bet all the men chase after you.
Yeah. And so we head over to Morthal. Of course, there's already alchemy inside the alchemist shop there. And I don't think there is actually magical... Yes, there is a magical table in Phalian's house here. So, anyway. The one thing that Morthal was missing was actually the basic smithing things. So they had a lot of stuff here already. They had, you know, like wood cutting and that kind of thing. And you'll notice that there's two smelters close together here. That's because one of these smelters is from the previous rather popular smelter mod that I was using before I made my mod. But, of course, they're both close together and obviously redundant, but they still both work. They don't interfere with one another or anything like that. There's the anvil. There's our plain old regular storage chest. We have our little cloud storage chest sitting right there next to our workbench. Looks like I have some things that are kind of up in the air here for some reason. Not sure why. I thought I had put them down on the ground. Maybe I'll have to get around to fixing those one day. However, they still all do function. And they provide you with the ability to cut wood, to make items, to improve armor and weapons and so on in a place where you never actually could do that before. So now we'll move onward again, and I think Stone Hills will be our next stop. So here we are at Stone Hills. Now, Stone Hills still already had a couple of things here. They had that grinding wheel over there, and I believe they also had this tanning rack. So the things that I added were cook pot here, and I also added a workbench here. Here's our cloud storage, and here's our local safe storage, our anvil, smelter, which was already here. I think I just placed the anvil and the other things around it. And yeah, that's about it. It already had a wood chopping, I think, over here as well. And of course you can either you know, sleep in one of these bedrolls, or else there is a bedroll inside the mine too. So there you go. There is Stone Hills. So we're going to look at the last of the homesteads next. Okay, this is the build site for Windstad Manor. which is the last of the 3 Hearthfire homesteading sites. And so, again, obviously there's nothing here, but I did place this cloud storage chest in such a way that it will be right next to a lot of other related stuff when you do purchase Windstad Manor's property and start building your house. So, I guess now we will move on. Alright, so the next to last stop in Skyrim is Dawnstar. And didn't really add very much to Dawnstar, but we did put in a couple of storage chests next to the blacksmith shop. Because Dawnstar has most of the necessary services and so on already here, as well as a couple of smelters and that kind of thing. There's something going on over here. That guard doesn't look like a happy guy, but we'll have a look at that off camera here, because we're not really concerned with that right now. Anyway, we're off to Volkihar Castle next. Okay, here we are in Castle Volkihar, and Rana's in the way, but basically the only thing I added to Castle Volkihar was cloud storage, and I tried to place it in a place that's kind of out of the way here on this hay bale in the smith's working area, because I'm aware that there are some Castle Volkihar overhauls in existence too, and so hopefully by placing this chest in this little corner here, it won't disturb anything too much. So that is all of the sites that I modified within Skyrim. There are a few also in Solstheim, so we're going to make a little bit of a trip out to Solstheim and have a look at a few sites out there. We are getting close to the end though now. Well, we have arrived at Raven Rock, and just made a couple of small additions to Raven Rock, because, again, pretty well all of the crafting needs are taken care of by the vanilla stuff. So all I did was I just added a couple of chests. Our storage chest, which is rather full here because with this character I actually spent quite a bit of time here. And of course our cloud chest as well. And I also added cloud storage to the player home, Severin Manor. So we'll pause for a moment while we go inside. Okay, the entryway to Severin Manor. So we'll head down the stairs here. And we'll take the first right into the area where the smelter is, and the forge. And right here is where I put the cloud storage chest. And again, the only reason that I took the time to point this out is that if someone is running some sort of mod that upgrades or changes Severin Manor in some way, you might want to know where that chest is. So we're going to go back outside now. So here we are at Tel Mithrin now. And again, Tel Mithrin seemed like it should have been a good base for players to play from. But it was somewhat lacking in some amenities. And so I put in a few amenities just over here behind Tel Mithrin. So we have our campfire and cookpot, our tent with bedroll, panning rack, grindstone, smelter, anvil, workbench, our regular storage chest, and our cloud storage. So we have one more stop to make, and then that will be it. So that will be coming up right away. So our final stop is the Skull Village. Now the Skull Village actually had quite a bit of the necessary things that we need in order to use it as a base. They had all of the smithing stuff over here and that sort of thing. Mainly what was missing from the Skull Village was a place to sleep. So if you happen to be playing the SE version of this mod and you're playing in survival, well, at the Skull Village now you have a bedroll with a tent and a nice cozy campfire to sleep next to. And of course you also have the storage. So there's our local storage chest and our cloud storage. So that's it. That is all of the sites. Obviously you're going to need Hearthfire and Dragonborn, as well as Dawnguard. So basically all DLC in order to be able to run this mod. And you know, it's obviously going to conflict with some things that do large overhauls on cities and towns and that kind of thing. Mainly that's why I made this video, because that way people don't have to ask me if it's compatible with this or that. They can watch the video and find out for themselves. And so, until the next time, I am Sandman 99.